Hello and welcome to a special episode here at Young Folk Knits. This is called the Young Folk Knits Journal. Hello y'all and welcome to the Young Folk Knits channel. My name is Casey and I'm the maker here at Young Folk Knits. This is a podcast mainly about knitting. I also talk a little bit about sewing and sometimes crochet and lots of different crafts that I enjoy. I live on a small farm in Arkansas where we raise honeybees and chickens and gardens, and we enjoy spending lots of time outdoors. One of my favorite things that I enjoy though is making. Today I wanted to share a special video, which is going to be the first in a series that I'm calling Young Folk Knits Journal. I really enjoy keeping a journal that I log all of my projects in. I thought it would be really fun to create an episode that journaled one project from cast on to cast off. So I'm going to take you completely through my process and how I record everything in my journal. I like to use a bullet journal. This journal is from Archer and Olive, and I have ordered quite a few from there because I just really love the bound covers on these journals. But any bullet journal is pretty much the same on the inside, so they all work just as well. But what I'm most excited about today is the yarn that I'll be using. Hobbii Yarns, which is a Copenhagen-based yarn company, was very kind and sent me a few different yarn bases to try out and to review. So this yarn is gifted, but I can promise you that my thoughts are genuine and this will be an honest review of their products. I do want to mention their website. I am very impressed with all of the different yarns that they have, the different bases, the different weights, and the price point for the quality is amazing. They ship all over the world, and I received my yarn very quickly from Copenhagen to the US. They also sell other brands besides just the Hobbii brand yarns, and they have some really great other products. like this awesome needle case that they sent. And they also sent me this notebook, which is actually a bullet journal. So you could actually make your own journal. They have tons and tons of free knitting and crochet patterns. They do have paid for patterns, but a great program that they have is Hobbii Plus. You get faster, easier checkout, 2 times the points on purchases. You get 3 free plus patterns each month. You would always receive 10% off all regular priced items, along with early bird access, gift with each order, and lots of other added benefits, which you can check out on their website, which is hobbii.com. So let's jump in and I will show you what yarns I received. Okay, so I have heard a lot of really good things about the Hobbii Diablo, which is their mohair yarn. Unfortunately, I'm allergic to mohair, but I was excited to see that they have a Surrey alpaca base, and that is called their Alpaca Blaze. So when I saw this, I immediately thought of the Sheer V sweater, which is a pattern by Jessie Mae Designs. I thought this would be a great opportunity to finally make the sweater that I have been wanting to make. And so I started looking at their different bases, and as soon as I saw this alpaca silk, I immediately wanted to knit with it. So it is 70% alpaca and 30% mulberry silk. It is a hand wash only yarn, but oh my goodness, it is so soft. It is one of the softest yarns that I have ever felt. And to have the content be only alpaca and silk, I was really impressed with the price. Look at that beautiful color. So this is color 03, and I ended up getting the same color in the Alpaca Blaze, which is 40% acrylic, 30% alpaca, and 30% polyamide. They look really great together. And I wanted to do a low contrast for my sweater. This alpaca is so nice, and something that I'm really liking about it on first thoughts is that most Surrey that I use, it's categorized under lace weight. Whenever you're substituting it for mohair, it's just, in my opinion, most of the time it's just a thicker base. So when I saw this, looking at the strand by itself, I was really impressed with how the size is much more similar to a strand of mohair. The only reason I say impressed is because it can be hard to get gauge whenever you're substituting Surrey held with fingering instead of mohair held with fingering. I thought, wow, this is gonna be a lot easier to hit gauge because the substitution is so similar. I thought this is gonna have just such a great halo, and it's so soft. I wanna knit everything out of this. There is zero itch at all. Since I am allergic to mohair and I substitute for Surrey, sometimes I do feel a bit sensitive to Surrey. This, however, I don't know, there is zero itch. It is amazing. So the other yarn that I decided to try is their unicorn base. So this is like their sock base. It is 75% merino wool and 25% polyamide. So it's your 75-25 sock base, but it is some extremely soft merino. And it says it's virgin wool. And this is the color 27. Look at that. It is gorgeous. So I think these would make beautiful, beautiful socks. But you know what? Even though it has the polyamide in it, I would totally make a sweater out of this or a shawl. And it's so soft. It's so much softer than just a lot of regular sock yarn. So I would say that this is another one of their sort of upper scale bases. But I mean, luxury socks, definitely. But I would 100% make a sweater out of this. So I'm excited to cast this on. Awesome thing, I don't have to wind any balls of yarn. It's totally ready to go. So a few things about the pattern that I'm going to make, which is the Sheer V sweater by Jessie Mae. I know for sure that I want to change the sleeves up. They have a sort of big bell sleeve, and I like that, but I don't really want to use it for this sweater. So I'm thinking either short sleeves or long sleeves with a sort of bishop sleeve, or I think like 3/4 length sleeves or right at the elbow. And in my mind, I'm kind of seeing like a puffy sleeve, not super fitted, because the way that the sweater is shaped is almost like a dolman type silhouette. Drop shoulder, I don't know. Sleeves are the last thing I decide on because I can never make up my mind. So the pattern comes with multiple options. You can do waist shaping, you can do no waist shaping. I haven't done waist shaping in a really long time, and so I think just for the fun of it, I'm going to do waist shaping. I do have a larger bust circumference than my waist quite a bit. I want my sweater to be somewhat cropped, not super high, but maybe to hit right at my natural waist, which is the point at which I have the smaller circumference at my waist. I think it would be more flattering to wear with dresses that way, and I kind of want it to maybe balloon a bit out from the ribbing. So come in at the waist and then maybe have a little bit of extra fabric and be like a really loose, flowy type fit up from the ribbing. I'm excited because it's drop shoulder. Those just tend to fit me the best. And anything with alpaca and silk usually has really nice drape. So I'm hoping that my sweater will be nice and drapey. I do want to add that because I am on the tall side, I'm 5'8". I feel like I need to make my sweater a little bit longer than pictured in the photos and what the pattern seems to call for, but maybe just about like an inch or two. So I think from my underarms down, I want the body to be about 11 inches. And that means that if I do the waist shaping, I will have to change how I space out the increases. So if the ribbing is 2.5 inches, I will subtract the 2.5 inches from my total body length, which is 11 inches. So I'll get 8.5 inches. Then from the 8.5 inches, I'm going to do 6 increases on the body. So when I take my 8.5 inches and I subtract it by 6, subtract, multiply, divide, confused. When I take my 8.5 inches and I divide it by my 6 increases, that's gonna give me like 1.4 something. So basically I'm going to do 1.5 inches between each increase. And that should give me the body length that I want. Okay, y'all, so that is my plan, and I will check in as I go. I hope that you're working on something that you're enjoying as well, and we can make together. Happy knitting! everyone. I hope you're doing well today. I wanted to talk a little bit about where I am on my sheer V sweater and also how the yarn that I'm using from Hobbii is working out. So I'm currently almost to where I want to split for the sleeves. According to the pattern for my size, I should have knit to about 10.5 inches, and I am past 11 at this point. And I want it to be, I do want it to hit me at my natural waist, but I'm holding it up a little bit under my arm, you know, a couple inches under my arms to kind of get a good length. I'll stand up and show y'all what it looks like so far. My natural waist, the smallest point is a little bit above my belly button, I would say. And then my hips flare out from there. So I would like to emphasize the, you know, the smallest part of my waist. And if I hold this up, see, you know, a little bit under my armpit, I would say it's hitting a little bit below that. I think I'm ready to split because I definitely want to wear this over dresses and with high-waisted skirts and pants. So I think I'm going to go with this length and go ahead and split. And I am ready to start the intarsia part. So far, this yarn has been incredible to work with. Look at the drape. And this Surrey reminds me more of a mohair than most that I have worked with. It's not as thick as a lot of Surrey, lace weight Surreys tend to be. To me, lace weight Surreys most of the time are 1 1/3 of what a mohair lace weight would be. Bad thing about working with Surrey is those stitches ain't going nowhere. So whether it be Surrey or mohair or anything like that, tinking back is not fun at all. Your yarn, it has a lot of tooth, but not in a bad way. I mean, like it sticks. So when you're trying to pull it out, it is not fun at all. It is torture. I'm also super happy that I was able to immediately hit gauge with the suggested needle size and these two yarns held together. And right now what I'm still trying to figure out is the sleeves. I do still have a little bit of time because I'm about to split the front and the back. And when I do that, I'll be working flat, just the front, and I'll be doing the intarsia chart for the sheer V. And then I'll need to knit the back, and I will graft the front and back shoulders together. And at that point, I will start the sleeves. So I have a little bit of time to decide, and knowing me, I won't decide until I'm at the elbow of my first sleeve. I use removable stitch markers just to mark each increase. I'm excited. Progress on my sheer V sweater, and so I wanted to show y'all where I'm at today. So I finished the front, so all of my intarsia work is finished, and it was actually really enjoyable. I did have the 3 balls of yarn that I was having to juggle. It's way easier if you can sort of set your 3 balls of yarn and then knit with them, easily untwist when you need to, but when you're maybe sitting in the car or sitting on the couch and you have everything beside you and then you turn your sweater, you know, things get tangled a little bit more easily, but it went really smoothly and I enjoyed it. And then I did a sewn bind off, a tubular bind off, and I did work the setup rows on this one, which I normally don't. So a lot of times with a tubular bind off or a sewn bind off, you'll have the 2 rows where you go across the ribbing and, you know, slip with the yarn in front on the purls and then knit your knit stitches, and then you turn it over and you do the wrong side. And I don't normally do that. I normally just go ahead and go straight to the sewn bind off part. But I did do it this time. It just sort of reminded me why I don't do it. I feel like it makes it so thick for me that I actually prefer to do it without the extra rows. So here's my neck and here's my bound off stitches. Of course, none of this has been blocked. And I have my shoulder stitches on these cords that I'm absolutely in love with. You just pop it on your needle and then slide your stitches down it. And when you're ready to put your stitches back on your needle, you just pop the end on your needle and kind of shimmy your stitches back on. It's so quick and I really, really love it. So I'm gonna go ahead and work my 3 needle bind off and get my shoulders completely finished. So I'm gonna hem these together, but I'm going to do it from the, you know, right sides facing with wrong sides out, so that my seam will be on the inside instead of visible on the outside. And then I'm going to pick up stitches and start my sleeves. So I'm super excited. This has went very quickly and I think I could actually finish my sleeves in the next day or 2. So that's my goal. Continuing to work on my sheer V sweater, and I'm at the point now of my sleeves, and I am still thinking a bishop type sleeve, only 3/4 length or elbow length. So at this point I just measured and I've knit 9 inches. So it's the drop shoulder, and with the pattern you pick up your stitches and you just, you know, you knit straight and then you follow the instructions to make your bell sleeve. So I didn't think that that sleeve was exactly what I was going for with this particular version of the sweater that I'm making. And I knew I wanted it to either be a long sleeve bishop sleeve or a 3/4 length or elbow length sleeve, possibly bishop style. So I think what I'm gonna do is try it on and look at the length I've got so far. So when I've got to the length that I want my sleeve to be, what I'll probably do is decrease 1/3 of the stitches, probably not quite 1/2 of the stitches, but 1/3 of the stitches. And then I will switch to my ribbing needle and do the cuff of the sleeves. Okay, so I'm trying it on. Okay, so here's my sleeve, and I really am liking the length of this. So what I could do is stop here and do the cuff, and then it would kind of be a, you know, make a 1.5 inch cuff, and it would kind of be a billowy, or a 2-inch cuff, and it would kind of billow over the top so that it would sit above my elbow. Or I could keep knitting another, probably want it to be about this much longer. So what is that, about 3 more inches? Yeah, so I would want to knit it about 3 more inches and then do the cuff for like the 3/4 length sleeves. I don't know what to do. I like both. Okay, this is literally decision time. I am such a squirrel, by the way. I have the hardest time committing to a decision. I do really like the shoulders. I really like the fit. And I did that tubular bind off for the neck opening, and I just really like this sweater. Drum roll, please. Y'all, it is all finished. You have stuck with me throughout this entire project. Thank you so much for still being here. I am so excited that I have finally finished my sheer V sweater, and I have lots to talk about. So as I mentioned before, Hobbii Yarn kindly gifted me some alpaca silk and alpaca blaze, which is a fingering and a lace weight yarn that I held double to make my sheer V sweater. And I have a few thoughts about the yarn. First of all, the alpaca silk is a dream to touch. It is so soft. I am still enamored with it, and it feels like cashmere. I want to make all the things with it. It's so soft. I will be ordering more. The alpaca blaze is a absolutely wonderful mohair substitute. It is super soft. It's a great suri. They have lots of great colors to choose from. I'm more of a neutral lover, so I definitely went with a very neutral color, but I thought it performed very well. I blocked my sweater, and since it has been blocked, the yarn still looks great. Everything is just, it's really nice. It has a super nice halo, and look at this drape, y'all. Okay, anything with alpaca and silk tends to have a beautiful drape, and this is no exception. Only negative, I absolutely could not spit splice because of the silk content and the polyamide. You can only spit splice with animal fibers, really. So a little bit about the pattern. I did make the waist shaping, and I made my body a little bit longer. So I made it about 11 to 12 inches. I'm trying to remember. I made it longer than the pattern called for. And I cast on, not using the tubular cast on. I wanted my ribbing at the waist to stay really, I did not want my ribbing at the waist to grow at all. And sometimes a tubular cast on can be a bit too stretchy for me, which is great for neck openings and different stuff like that. But for this particular garment, I knew exactly how I wanted it to fit, and I did not want to have a lot of stretch there. It's not that it has no stretch. I mean, a long tail cast on is still stretchy, it's just not the stretchiest. So you're going to be doing some intarsia knitting to create this V, which is knit only with mohair or suri, which is, I used suri. So you've got this really pretty kind of sheer V at the front of the sweater. So then you have this sort of boat neck at the top where you have the ribbing and a 3-needle bind off. So then you pick up at the armholes to make your sleeves. And basically for the bell sleeves, you're just gonna pretty much knit straight. I knew that for me, I'm gonna get the most wear out of it, even in the wintertime, if it was short sleeves. So I decided in the end, after much deliberation, to go with a sort of elbow length sleeve. And I wanted it to be more on the lines of a bishop sleeve or sort of puffy sleeve. But since the alpaca silk and alpaca blaze is so drapey, it wouldn't be like a big puffy thing. It's still gonna be super drapey, but it would have that shape that I really like. Everybody's arms are different. You basically would need to try it on as you go to get the right length for you. But for me, I decided to knit for 9 inches. And then once I was at 9 inches, I rapidly decreased in 2 rows. So for the first row, I did knit 1, knit 2 together. And then on the next row, I did something like knit, I did it in groups of 10, and then the last group wasn't quite 10 stitches, but I did, you know, knit 9 and then knit 2 together for my 10th stitch. And that got me to around 52 stitches. And that's the 52 stitches was what I ended up with for my cuff. So I switched to my ribbing size needle on the 9-inch circulars, and I did 12 rows of ribbing. So the first sleeve, I actually did the 12 rows of ribbing and then I bound off in pattern and thought I really liked that. But as I kept trying it on, I thought that my sleeves could actually use a little bit more stretch. So I decided to rip that bind off out, and I went back and I did a sewn bind off or a tubular bind off. I don't think that it looks better. I think that the bind off in pattern with this type of yarns held together, a halo, I thought that the bind off in pattern looked very neat. It looked very nice, polished. I was totally happy with it. The tubular bind off definitely gave me a lot more stretch, and so I liked that better. These are my thoughts. I don't know. I think that if I was going to not make this a crop sweater, if I wanted to make this a full length sweater, then I would not do the waist shaping. I think I would just knit it straight. I knit the 2X, but if I was gonna do a full length sweater and knit it straight, I would have gone down a size to an XL because that one would have fit me better. For the cropped size that I wanted to do with the waist shaping and have that sort of flowy dolman type look at the top, I did go up to the 2X, and I really like the way that it fits. I don't think that the V is that sheer with this alpaca. It is, I mean, you can see it is, you can see my hand and everything, but it's not like wildly sheer whenever I put it on. So speaking of putting it on, I think I'm going to try it on for y'all. And then I actually have a few different outfits that I'm gonna show you of how I think I'll most likely wear this. Okay. wanted to show you a little bit about what I would write in my knitting journal when I'm finished. So I like to put my project, what it's called, which is the sheer V sweater, who the designer is, what needle sizes I used, what gauge I got, and any notes that I would need to recreate this, or to know what I did if I wanted to do something different. Like how I did the sleeves, how I did the increases, what needle sizes I used, how much yarn I used. And a lot of times I like to draw a little picture of the sweater because my mind immediately recognizes what sweater I'm talking about whenever I see a little picture of it. And just those few simple notes, which you could easily do in Ravelry notes or wherever you keep your projects. It just helps me to remember. For some reason, I find it so much faster to write it down than type it in, but it would probably be much more easily accessed and you'd never mislay it if you did it in your Ravelry notes or whatever platform you use to keep track of your projects. I just enjoy writing in a journal, so this is fun for me. Let me look again at her project page and I'll tell you the size range. So it is very size inclusive. It goes from an extra small to a 5XL, or 2 fit bust measurements of a 28 inch to 62 inch bust. So that's pretty good. There's a lot of options there. So you're going from a finished garment size of 26 inches to 62 inches, which I think is really nice. And it says you should have a sweater with positive ease of 0 to 2 inches. I have more than that in the bust, but that's the way I wanted it to be. So when I first decided to make this sweater, I thought that I was gonna do long sleeves, a bishop sleeve. And so I actually ordered 8 balls of the alpaca silk, and they are, let me see, 166 meters or 181 yards. And then I ordered 6 of these. Of course, they have more yardage. These are 225 meters or 246 yards. I did have to dip in just barely to my 5th ball of the alpaca blaze, or my Surrey base, but just barely. I did have to dip into it though. I definitely needed it. And then I got to the very end of my 5th ball of the alpaca silk. So I had 3 complete balls left over of this, and 1 and most of the 2nd of the alpaca blaze. So if you're making the 2X and you wanted to do a short sleeve like me, a more, a semi-cropped sweater, then you would need 5 balls of alpaca silk and probably 5 balls of the alpaca blaze, because I definitely did need that. If you're a returning viewer, thank you so much for joining me again today. If you're a new viewer, you are most welcome. You can find me on Instagram at youngfolk.knits, and you can find me on Ravelry under Casey Apple. If you enjoy my videos, please subscribe. It helps my channel out tremendously, and I always absolutely love reading all of your comments. They're always so helpful and kind and encouraging. My next episode will be back to regularly scheduled programming, my normal podcast episodes. And I have quite a few different projects I'm ready to show y'all. So happy knitting, stay cool this July, and I will see y'all soon.